catches T-Mac had on Saturday, what do you think was the most impressive one?
I thought the one where he ran away, came across the field and ran away from the whole secondary. You know, it's great to see him kind of explode and accelerate and finish it that way. And that's like hard to get those kind of plays in practice. You know, just like simulating game tempo. So I thought that was one I liked the most. I like it when they score.
Michael and then Brian.
When you looked at the film of the defense, particularly like the rush lanes and edge containment, what did you see in that regard, and what would you like to see moving forward against mobile quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think, like I said after the game Saturday night, I give New Mexico and that kid a lot of credit. I also think there's some things that we can be a little more clean on in terms of our contain and some of those rush lanes. And so that's something the defensive staff is hard at work cleaning up yesterday and today, and we'll be ready to go this weekend.
Brian and David.
The short yardage situations that you found yourself in the second half, a lot of those you brought in Caden Luke for that fullback spot, and it seemed to work well, but do you have to find a way that you're using that and it's not just like automatic run, that you have to be able to disguise things? Because I think you guys ran all but one of the times that he was in there.
Yeah, I think in short yardage, we'd like to be able to run it and get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what we add to that package will be, you'll see it as it comes. But I'm excited for Caden, right? Kid's doing a great job. Got in there, made 2 great touchdown blocks.
Is it hard to get a kid like right away to buy into this idea that that's your role, that you are in here for these short yardage physical plays?
No, I think, every offensive football coach or any coach in general is always trying to tailor the scheme to the talent you have, right? And so when you find people that can add something to your offense or defense, then you try to find a way to utilize it in the game. And that's a role that he's in right now, but that doesn't mean it can't get more as he keeps playing, He's a freshman. He's been here a month, But I'm excited for him. Kid grew up local, just loving the U of A, and gets to run on the field and play in his first game as a true freshman. I mean, that's a story right there. Dream come true.
David, then Jason.
Brent, you mentioned obviously the performance that Devin Dampier had. When you look at, analyzing your defense, and especially on the backside, it looked like a lot of those plays in the first half. I mean, you guys had pretty good coverage. Is it a situation where you say to your guys, you tip your cap that 2 guys in Dampier and Lysol were able to make plays in those situations, or do you say, well, here's maybe what we could have been better at to be a step situation better to get a hand on the ball in those situations?
I think that's always the case coming out of every game. There's always things you can do better that give you a better chance to execute on either side of the ball, right? And then I also think there's part of it where you do tip your hat and say, hey, shoot, that's a hell of a play. It's a heck of a grab, that he made on the sideline. So there's always those things, but yeah, can it be cleaner? Can it be better? Absolutely. And that's why we practice.
And what can you say about how you guys were able to get Leif Magnuson ready for the game, considering it appeared that he did not have a lot of practice time in camp?
I thought Leif did a great job. He's a really conscientious kid. It's really important to him, and he got in there and did a great job. So I was encouraged by that.
Jason and Troy.
Did you know T-Mac was so close to the Big 12 record?
I did not. That was, and that's one of those things, like, those records are all well and good, but also to keep feeding him the ball late in the game when the game's out of reach and have something bad happen doesn't make sense to me either. You know what I mean? He's an awesome player, and it was fun to watch, wasn't it? It was impressive.
And then after the game, Noah kind of took responsibility and implied that maybe sometimes he focused on T-Mac a little bit too much. Watching the film, did you feel that was the case, that there were other opportunities missed, or is it just a matter of T-Mac was just playing that good?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of those things, I think for any team to be as effective as we want to be, or for us to be as effective as we want to be, we have to have, more distribution with the football. Noah knows that. Our offensive staff knows that, right? And so it's just a matter of him going through his progressions and finding finding the right place to go with the ball. But those opportunities kind of presented himself with T-Mac on Saturday night, so he took advantage of them.
Troy and then Michael.
David kind of mentioned it in terms of the line kind of being fully healthy with spring practice and training camp, some guys in and out. So how do you think the cohesion was on the offensive line to start the game and where it finished at the end of the game?
I was encouraged by it. I think that group continues to come along, and I thought, Big Josh does a fantastic job coaching that position, and I have a lot of faith in him. And you saw us run the ball effectively, and you also saw us protect the quarterback effectively. So I thought it was a good start. Game one, how much better can we get right now? Like, how much better can we get this week in preparation for this next opponent?
Michael and David. I think the adjective you used after the game regarding the penalties was selfish. What was your message to the team about those types of penalties?
Just that you can't do that and win consistently. You know what I mean? We can't be so emotional that we fall off the cliff. We want to play with an edge. We want to walk right up to the edge of the cliff, but we just can't fall off it. And a couple times the other night we did. And so we have to know that as we continue to play throughout the season, as the games get more intense and the stakes get bigger and intensify, we can't do things that hurt our chances to win. And so just trying to educate them on that, I think is really important. And then, first game, we're excited to play, and we've got a great crowd, and the Zona Zoo is rocking, and we got to do a great job of keeping our emotion in check and worry about what's best for the football team.
David and Brian.
Brent, after that 78-yard touchdown pass you mentioned, there was a shot of you with your arm around Noah, kind of talking to him after that. What were you saying to him in that situation, and if not specifically, what types of conversations are you having with your quarterback after plays like that?
Noah is, I've talked about him a lot with the media and with everybody else. He just has an incredible, he's so competitive, and it's so important to him. And he has a great understanding of his role as the quarterback and as a team captain and all those things. And so I'm always talking about that, how that's impacting the team. Hey, did you talk to this guy after he did this? Or guy drops a pass, hey, go put your arm around him. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to play for Noah, right? And so it's always important that as we go throughout the course of the season, that not just Noah, but the other leaders on our team understand the impact of their voice, their body language, their tone with their teammates. And so I'm just always talking to guys about stuff like that.
Brian and Damian in the back.
Do you ascribe to the theory that teams show the most improvement between game 1 and 2? And if so, how much is the film from this past game, more important than maybe the film of NAU?
I think it's between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. I think those are the 2 weeks where you see the biggest acceleration of your football team. In terms of the film versus New Mexico, that's put to bed. We're all about NAU now. We can fix those errors, and we'd had some correction work in practice today, but now it's all about the next opponent, and we don't have time to look backwards. We got to look forward.
Damian and then Troy.
So you talked about Caden there for a second. What stood out about Caden during that fall camp?
He's a physical, hard-playing football player. He loves it, and I think that's one of those things that we're always trying to identify in recruiting. Does the kid love football? I think there's lots of players out there that really love getting recruited, but they don't necessarily love football. Caden Luke loves football, and it shows up every time he steps on the field. So that was, we just saw, and then real conscientious, right? Sometimes you have a freshman that can't absorb the playbook and can't learn it fast enough, but that wasn't a problem for him. He was super diligent, and then he combines that athleticism and physicality on a big body.
Covered in high school, we always talk about the idea that he reminded us as an old school kind of throwback player. What do you think about that assessment?
I think that's fair. And I think it's cool because he's just getting started, right? He's a true freshman, and he's already finding a way to contribute in a meaningful way. And I'm optimistic that is going to continue to grow and improve as he goes.
Troy and then Justin.
This is the first game with the 2-minute warning. How does that affect game management, time management, and just your thoughts on having that now in college football?
It's a huge impact because it's an extra timeout. You know what I mean? So you're coming into that part of the game, and you potentially have 4 timeouts. So it can impact the way you try to finish a game if you're down. It can impact the way you try to close out a game if you're up. So there's a lot of stuff. We spent a lot of time this offseason talking through those situations and those scenarios because it absolutely adds a new element.
Last question to Justin.
And along those lines, I know you've talked about ad nauseum, but the in-game tech with the tablets and the communication, how was that?
I thought that was great. I think it's interesting because because you have that video on the sideline, you know, you have a chunk of the side of the ball that you would normally be like off the bench, like cheering on the team, right? And they're actually now like watching all the plays of the last series, right? And so they're literally getting coached up to the next snap they have to play, which I think is valuable. You know, it's going to be interesting to see like over time. Some players, you can fill their heads with that stuff and they can absorb it and go out and play it. Some players, it's distracting, you know what I mean? So there's going to be a fine line. I think it's going to be depend on, you know, which guy you're talking to or who you are working with. And, you know, each coach, you know, every individual coach knows those players, you know, who they are, how they learn, how they respond better than anybody. So, but I think it's going to be valuable for us.
And then what is it about Jonas Savionea's ability that you can kind of move him around wherever on the offensive line?
Well, he's an extremely talented young man, but he also has a really high care factor, right? He's voted as a team captain. The guys love him. You know, him and Josh Baker are the real leaders of that offensive front. And I think, you know, just his demeanor and how hard he plays, I think that rubs off on everybody. And the fact that he's just mature, that you can move him around and he can play with confidence and know what to do.
All right, that's our time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.